Cedric, hurry up, Madame Diggory urged by the fireplace on the first floor. Here, Mom. Cedric put down the basic charm in his hand, straightened his hair in front of the mirror, and said narcissistically, "It's so handsome." After Cedric came downstairs, Mrs. Diggory complained, "Your father works overtime, so there is no way to go to Diagon Alley with us." Cedric's father works in the Department of Fantastic Beasts Management and Control, and often has temporary tasks. Because fantastic beasts all over England are managed by dozens of them, it is normal to work 996 overtime a week. Mrs. Diggory grabbed a handful of fluo powder and threw it into the fireplace, Diagonal Alley. A green flame rose from the fireplace, and Mrs. Diggory took Cedric and walked in. As if stuffed into a drum washing machine, Cedric rolled his eyes after landing, and he became more determined to learn how to apparate quickly. The figures wearing wizard cloaks come and go on the retro streets. The most noticeable thing is the little witches who are chirping and looking around. The week before Hogwarts school started was the peak season in Diagon Alley, and every store would greet these little gods with enthusiasm. Women and children make the best money, and this is the same in the wizarding world. Mrs. Diggory looked at the list while muttering, 3 sets of plain work gowns, 1 pair of protective gloves, 1 winter cloak. Of course there are textbooks, standard spells, elementary, magic theory. After reading the textbook column, Mrs. Diggory said happily, "Great, we have all the books above, so I don't have to go to the Lihen bookstore today." Hearing what Mrs. Diggory said, Cedric rarely expressed dissatisfaction. "Mom, you promised me that you will buy me 5 magic books as my gifts." As soon as he heard the magic book, Mrs. Diggory's head suddenly grew big. "Baby, I think you will definitely become a member of Ravenclaw." Mrs. Diggory has long been accustomed to her son's hobbies. Every time he comes to Diagon Alley, Cedric will not be as keen on magic candy shops as other children. On the contrary, the most disgusting place for little wizards like Lihen bookstore is Cedric's favorite. Except for textbooks, other magic books are not cheap. Even though Mr. Diggory has a lot of income, his family still spends a lot of gold coins for Cedric's hobbies every year. Okay, 5 magic books," Madame Diggory said while pulling Cedric through the crowd, "but we have to buy your school uniform and wand first, or you will be in Lily again." Hen bookstore forgot the time. After measuring their heights in the clothing store, Cedric and Mrs. Diggory came to the Ollivander wand shop, pushed the door and entered, and the doorbell automatically rang. Cedric looked at this small dusty shop. Wand making is an extremely delicate work, no less than high-end watch craftsmanship. Cedric once tried to make a magic wand by himself. After all, Mr. Diggory was in the work of the Department of Fantastic Beast Management. The tail hair of unicorns and the nerves of snakes are not uncommon. But after reading My Family and Wand by Ollivander, Cedric decisively gave up this idea temporarily. Although the material of the wand is simple, the craftsmanship is extremely complicated and precise. An inferior wand is a huge disaster for the caster. For details, please refer to the slug-spitting Ron. Cedric was thinking wildly. Ollivander's figure tremblingly descended from the step-ladder, turned around and smiled. "Welcome, Mrs. Diggory." "Hello, Mr. Ollivander." Cedric and his mother said hello at the same time. "This is..." Ollivander looked at Cedric kindly. "Cedric Diggory, sir." Cedric hurriedly introduced himself. Regarding Ollivander, the old wizard, not to mention his possible magical strength, just his influence in the British magical world is enough. Let Cedric be in awe, knowing that at least 90% of the magic wands in the British magic world come from this small shop. "Hello, Mr. Diggory Little, congratulations on becoming a member of Hogwarts. Do you usually use your left hand or your right hand?" "Right hand." After changing the 4 wands critically, Cedric picked up a wand made of unicorn tail hair, and the end of the wand suddenly bounced with silver sparks. Ollivander said happily, "Made of ash wood, good elasticity, 12 and 1/4 inches, a unicorn hair plucked from the tail of a particularly beautiful male unicorn, contains extraordinary magic. Each wand has been waiting for its owner since it was successfully made. I am very happy that another wand has found its home. Coming out of Ollivander's wand shop, Cedric also bought some learning utensils such as crucibles, and hurriedly dragged Mrs. Diggory to the Lihen bookstore. Welcome! After seeing Cedric, the manager of Lihen bookstore greeted him happily. Hello, Mr. Engagon. Cedric greeted him intimately and asked, are there any new stocks in the second-hand book section? Of course, dear Cedric, and I specifically found the Basic Alchemy published in 1673 that you asked last time. It took me a lot of energy. It's great! Cedric said excitedly. In the wizarding world, second-hand books do not mean cheap. On the contrary, many isolated and out-of-print books can only be found in second-hand books, such as Basic Alchemy. The book, except for some ancient magic families, is hard to see in the world. Walking to the second-hand book area, Cedric quickly found the book Basic Alchemy. The figure on the cover of the book was working on the alchemy stand. After being picked up by Cedric, the alchemy stand turned over and the figure complained. Said, "Caution! Alchemy is a dangerous job." Although he knew he was not a real person, Cedric still said in a low voice, "I'm sorry, Master Nicomel." After hearing Cedric's answer, the character said with a smile, "It seems that you have some talent in alchemy, at least you are cautious enough." After speaking, the book opens automatically. Cedric is used to it. Many magic books are weird, even if there is no specific method, even if you are its owner, there is no way to open it. Cautious enough. Cedric was thoughtful, and then he wanted to read the works of this master alchemist. Baby, you can go home and read it again. You reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Today we have to buy you a pet. Mrs. Diggory reminded me. Cedric reluctantly withdrew his gaze, and then selected 4 books on alchemy on the shelf, and walked out of the Lihen bookstore with Madame Diggory's painful expression on his face. At night, Mr. Diggory with a tired face returned home carrying a cage, and the animals in the cage moved restlessly. "Welcome back, Dad." Cedric greeted him happily and looked at the cage fiercely. "Take it, this is your gift for enrollment, but you have to be careful, I don't want to find a golden jialong at home." Cedric took the cage and opened it. Inside was a magical animal with a duckbill. Sniff, a XX level magical animal, has a docile temperament and can be raised in captivity. It is good at digging up treasures. There is a magical organ similar to a space bag in the abdomen. Sniffing will hide all the treasures found in it. Looked at the scenery outside carefully. This Sniff was only born not long ago, only as big as an adult's fist. It's easy to have a good relationship with this animal. Cedric took a silver coin out of his pocket and shook it in front of Sniff. The other party couldn't help the temptation and was easily seduced by Cedric. Tossed the silver coin to Sniff, the young Sniff hurriedly caught it and stuffed it into his pocket. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Cedric scratched the opponent's head gently. The bribed Sniff didn't resist, but made a gurgling, comfortable sound. Cedric, who has established a friendship with Sniffer, doesn't feel bad about his Yingxi K. After all, it's just that his left pocket has been changed to his right pocket. Unfortunately, the young Sniffer doesn't understand this. A few days later, Cedric successfully arrived at Hogwarts. Even though he has lived in this world for 12 years, Cedric still has a sense of unreality when looking at the brightly lit castle in front of him. He was just an ordinary person in his previous life. When he woke up, he became a baby who fell to the ground with a hapless name, Cedric Diggory. Outstanding knowledge, good looks, personable, enthusiasm and integrity, a lot of excellent words can be used to describe Cedric, and it can even be said to be a youth template, a winner in life. But he will die, at the hands of Voldemort. He is only 17 years old, this alone is enough to make all the previous advantages invisible. So cherish life and stay away from the goblet of fire. Cedric said to himself. What? Jessie asked by the side. Nothing. Cedric said to his new friend on the train, I'm worried about the entrance exam. The topic of the entrance test successfully diverted Jessie's attention. For the newly enrolled little wizards, the entrance test of Hogwarts is just like the 7 unbelievable schools in the previous life. Every freshman who enters school is told by their parents and elder brothers that there will be an entrance test with a serious face, but they don't tell them the truth. This is a prank exclusively for the seniors, and it will always arouse unlimited associations among the little wizards. I heard that they will put a giant monster in the hall. Only the surviving wizard can become a member of Hogwarts. Jessie said with some horror, and immediately caused panic among the little wizards around. Cedric couldn't help but twitched the corners of his mouth. Who told you? Admit, my brother, now he is a member of Gryffindor. He said that he was almost crushed into meatloaf by the monster. Seeing Jessie with a serious face, Cedric couldn't help but hesitated twice. First-year freshman, go in here. At this time, Professor McGonagall's voice came. In line with her serious expression, many little wizards retreated in fear and gave the lead to others. Cedric, who did not back down suddenly, became the first. Jessie also wanted to back down, but thinking of the new friends he had made next to him, he hesitated and stood beside Cedric with a brave and righteous look. Cedric, who knew the real situation, couldn't help but give Jessie a high look. Seeing the situation, the opponent was obviously a Gryffindor. I took the lead and walked in. There is no legendary monster in the brightly lit hall. The seniors of the 4 major colleges are sitting in the hall in an orderly manner. The front row of the hall is the professors of each college, and there is a center in the middle. A high stool with a shabby wizard hat on it. Professor McGonagall walked up first, picked up the wizard hat, and motioned for Cedric to sit on the high stool. The sorting hat fell on Cedric's head, and he came back to life immediately, and he said in a whisper, "Pure wizard blood, I remember this smell, you are the kid of the Diggory family." It seems that the sorting hat is not just a simple detection of human hearts, it can accurately distinguish blood. It has already explained its extraordinariness. Cedric couldn't help but think, after all, this is a magic item made by the 4 legendary wizards. Hey, kid, you really have a vision, you can see my extraordinary at a glance, let me see. In addition to the blood of excellent wizards, you also have a wealth of knowledge, as well as a desire and ambition for magic knowledge. I have never seen such knowledge in any enrolled young wizard. Slytherin or Ravenclaw, this is really a difficult question to decide. No Slytherin, Ravenclaw, no Slytherin, Ravenclaw. Cedric muttered like Harry Potter. Well, not Slytherin, but Ravenclaw. The sorting hat muttered. It just wanted to say Ravenclaw loudly, but when the voice echoed in the hall, it changed to Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff. Professor McGonagall took off the sorting cap from Cedric's head and repeated it. Because she saw Cedric sitting on the bench, thinking that the other party did not react, she patted Cedric on the shoulder and pointed to Hufflepuff's seat for him. Cedric hid the shock and walked to Hufflepuff's seat. The indifferent voice that just appeared in his mind constantly echoed. Fate deflection occurred, automatic correction, successful correction, information admission of potential detached persons, admission was successful. That voice is supreme, and Cedric is sure it is definitely not his own illusion, or the last joke of the sorting hat. Until the end of the sorting house after enjoying a sumptuous dinner, Cedric still did not recover from the shock. If the voice was true, it would not be easy for him to successfully survive the age of 17. Under the leadership of the Hufflepuff prefect, the freshman quickly found the dormitory area. Password: donuts. Hufflepuff's dormitory area is next to the cafeteria, and the password also has a distinct food-like attribute. Cedric saw a saying in his previous life that the greatest of the 4 founders of Hogwarts was Hufflepuff. Slytherin has selected ambitious apprentices with extraordinary talents. Gryffindor selected apprentices who were brave and fearless, with extraordinary will. Ravenclaw selects apprentices who are knowledgeable and have extraordinary thinking. And Hufflepuff took the remaining apprentices into his arms to prevent them from leaving Hogwarts sadly because they were not picked. After dividing the dormitory, Cedric lay on the bed thinking about the weird thing that happened at the sorting ceremony. Destiny deflection, UU reading www.uuganshu.com. Potential detachment. Just these two words have already explained that this world is not only Harry Potter in his own perception, but even a great power is constantly observing in this world, even intervening in this world. Cedric thought for a while, couldn't help but muttered, system. As the word fell, segments of data flowed past Cedric's eyes, and finally converged into a panel. Potentially detached person 00067. Cedric Diggory power, 3 agility, 4 intelligence, 8 physical strength, 4 charm, 7 lucky, 6, the standard for adult men is 5, basic attribute power, chaos magic talent, none skills, conjuration LV2, potions LV2, alchemy LV1, the status bar is temporarily sealed. After becoming a detached one, it will be automatically unblocked. Cedric looked at the concise attribute panel with a bit of astonishment, when he set his sights on the spells. Magic Theory LV2, Occlusive Cerebral Surgery LV2, Fainted LV1. There are many obstacles LV1, Armor Bodyguard LV2. These spells he had learned suddenly unfolded. Although he got the new attribute panel, Cedric was not happy at all, because it proved that the previous fate deflection and fate correction were not illusory. And the term potential detachment also proves that he is still in the assessment period and he has not truly detached himself from the destiny of death. It seems that if you want to be a detached one, you must at least survive from Voldemort. This assessment is far more terrifying than a troll. Cedric was not as snooze as other little wizards, got up on time at 6 o'clock, and once again called the attribute panel in front of him to make sure that what happened yesterday was not after the illusion. After taking a deep breath, Cedric walked out of Hufflepuff's common room after he dressed and washed. The cafeteria was right next to him. The house elves inside were ready to serve the students. While eating breakfast, Cedric thought about his next plan. Originally, his plan was to study hard, escape the death in the Goblet of Fire, and then make a large number of life-saving items. It is best to learn the loyalty curse, go to the ancient eastern country, and find an ordinary person to hide his home. In this way, even Voldemort would not even want to find himself, wait for the savior to defeat the great devil, and enjoy the happiness of the magical world after the world is peaceful. And now it seems that his plan must be overturned, because he may not be able to bypass Voldemort. I'm afraid that even if I give up studying at Hogwarts, the Supreme Voice will make myself reappear in the Goblet of Fire challenge. But fortunately, this is not an absolutely unsolvable death, as you can see from the system's name for yourself. Potential Transcendence Person 00067, which means two things: one is that one may be detached destiny, and the other is that someone may succeed. And the resurrected Voldemort is not irresistible, his soul is still in a weak state after resurrection, and for wizards, the soul is also the source of their strength in a sense. As long as I can drag it to Dumbledore to find the problem, I believe Voldemort will not continue to entangle himself with this little shrimp. After all, these two are good friends who have fallen in love and killed each other for a lifetime. The most important thing now is how to quickly improve one's strength so that one can survive in the hands of Voldemort. The magic in the world of Harry Potter is both simple and complex. It's simple because most of the magic spells here are not difficult. Even the 3 unforgivable spells can be learned by almost every wizard, and they can learn it. They don't require excellent talents like magic in other worlds. But this does not mean that the world of Harry Potter is a low magic world. After all, whether it's a traceless curse or a time converter, this kind of method that can play with time and space, even in many high-level worlds, can't do it. Not to mention magical creations such as the Blessing Potion, the House of All Requests, which involve the realm of destiny and creation. Cedric didn't explore these too much before, but now, he thinks he has found the clue, and the chaos magic on the attribute panel should be the answer. Because the primitive magic of this world is chaotic and disorderly, it is both weak and powerful. This is why it is difficult for wizards to take the initiative to enhance their source of magic power. Muggles can give birth to genius wizards, and pure-blood families can give birth to dumb guns. This also means that even if Cedric works hard, it will be difficult for Cedric to increase his chaos magic power to the point where he can compete with Voldemort in 4 years. This is determined by talent. But strength is not equal to talent. Here, even mortals can kill most wizards with a pistol, provided that they know how to use the tools in their hands reasonably. Alchemy creation is certainly one of the tools. After thinking about it, Cedric has clearly figured out the plan for the next 4 years in his mind. There are a few days in the beginning of school to familiarize the freshmen with the environment. This is the same in the magic world. After breakfast, Cedric arrived at the 8th floor with Sniffer hardship. You must know that the moving stairs here are really not friendly to the new students. After all, Hogwarts was originally built as a wizarding castle to resist foreign enemies. In the medieval witch hunt, even the 4 legendary wizards had no choice but to choose a remote place, Guan. This is enough to show that the water in this world is very deep, and at least there is more than one extraordinary power of wizards. After searching for a long time on the 8th floor, Cedric finally found the tapestry where the giant stick beat Barnabas. I need a room to hide things. After Cedric walked back and forth 3 times, a simple door appeared on the opposite wall. Cedric opened the door with Sniff and entered. This is a dusty utility room, or palace. This place is too big, like a giant waste collection station. Cedric estimates that even if he spends a few years, he won't even think about finding real treasure in the garbage dump. But fortunately, he has a secret weapon, and he sniffed it out of the pocket of the mage's robe. This little thing has been running around in his pocket restlessly ever since it entered here. Obviously, this treasure room is to it what fishy smell is to a cat. After several days of getting along, Cedric and this magical animal have established a preliminary friendship. After all, this is a magical treasure hunter. Put Sniff on the ground, Cedric said softly, go, find all the good things. Sniffing this magical animal has an innate ability to detect treasures, especially the shining treasures. Cedric believes that this place will definitely make him a lot of gains. This is a secret room that has existed for thousands of years. Even Voldemort would hide such powerful items as Ravenclaw's crown. Even if other magic items are not comparable to Ravenclaw's crown, they are of great value. After getting Cedric's permission, Sniff happily got into the garbage dump. Is such a hard-working employee, Cedric couldn't help showing a fatherly smile. I touched a few artificial crystals in my pocket. This is the reward for a while. You must know that sniffing this magical animal has no resistance to shiny things, even if the artificial crystals don't have much value. Took out the basic alchemy he carried with him. Cedric read the book while waiting to sniff and hunt for treasure for himself. After 3 hours, he stood up and moved his stiff body. Cedric decided to end today's treasure hunting operation. After blowing a few whistles, Sniff reluctantly got out of the treasure pile. Cedric lifted Sniff upside down while scratching its abdomen with one hand. This is the laughing point of Sniff. A large number of treasures fell on the ground, and most of them were metal utensils. Looking at a bunch of damaged crucibles and crystal balls, Cedric was a little speechless. It seems that his magic pet needs more training. One of the crowns immediately caught Cedric's attention. Although it was covered with dust, the exquisite patterns and the huge jewel in the center attracted attention. Not to mention, this crown itself contains magic power, which attracts people to wear it on the top of the head. This is another Horcrux of Voldemort. If he didn't know the danger of the Horcrux, maybe Cedric would be like Ginny's silly girl. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com became the host of Voldemort, and he was still happy. I thought I found a grandfather. Although the Horcrux itself doesn't have much power, it is no less than some spells in terms of bewitching people's hearts. Even if Cedric is protected by Occlumency LV2, it is difficult to look away again. But although he knew the danger of Horcruxes, Cedric didn't have the idea of turning them in or destroying them. After all, this is a double-edged sword that can quickly increase his strength, provided that he knows how to use it reasonably. After thinking for a while, Cedric asked Sniff to put the magic items he temporarily considered valuable into his pocket, and at the same time picked up Ravenclaw's crown to leave the room of responsiveness. At this time, the supreme voice once again sounded in his ears, the deflection of destiny, bringing Ravenclaw's crown, Horcrux, out of the responsive house, will cause unpredictable consequences and have a huge impact on the world. Will the potential detachment continue this operation? Cedric was suddenly excited, and under this voice, he suddenly woke up from greed, looked at the crown in his hand, showing a complex expression. It seems that even Occlumency LV2 still cannot stop the temptation of Voldemort's Horcrux. Even though Voldemort was only an adult when he made this Horcrux, it was far from his strongest moment. If it weren't for the reminder of the system, I'm afraid I would really take this Horcrux away from the room of responsiveness. When the time comes, I don't have the final say. After all, this Horcrux has such a powerful ability to charm humans. Longlegs ran away by themselves. Taking a deep breath, Cedric took Ravenclaw's crown and found a cupboard to hide it. This Horcrux was temporarily unavailable for himself, at least until his Occidental brain made a huge breakthrough. After walking out of the responsive room with Sniff, Cedric checked his watch. It was near noon and it was time for dinner. This incident of the room for all requests not only made him more wary of Voldemort, it also gave him more knowledge of the system. System first appeared at the Sorting Hat ceremony, and at that time it should be the first time that I deviated greatly from the established destiny, from Hufflepuff to Ravenclaw. System directly reversed the result and admitted himself as a potential detachment. But this time, the system did not directly interfere. Instead, it reminded him whether this meant that after becoming a potential detachment, the system would not directly interfere with his own destiny again. There is also the need to quickly improve the level of occlumency, Cedric said in his heart. After becoming a traverser, the most serious thing Cedric learned was occlumency. After all, this is a rare spell that does not require a magic wand. Even the little wizards who have not enrolled can practice it. Of course, the advanced theories are too complicated for ordinary little wizards, and even many adult wizards do not specifically learn occlumency. Cedric has spent a lot of work on this, but now it seems that he is really just getting started. If you want to resist the Voldemort soul fragments in the Horcrux, at least occlumency LV3 or higher is required. While thinking, he walked into the canteen. The table belonging to Hufflepuff was already full of little wizards. "Cedric, where did you go this morning?" a little wizard in Hufflepuff asked. He was Cedric's roommate. Cedric said with an unlucky look, "Don't mention foreign, those stairs made me lost in the castle today, and finally came back." Hearing the moving stairs, the remaining little wizards nodded sympathetically. After all, they were really unfriendly. After lunch, Cedric rejected Forun's offer to play wizard chess. After spending half an hour asking for directions, he finally found the library. Obviously, this library has expanded the internal space with a telescopic spell. The tall bookshelves are densely packed with books. This is the accumulation of a school for nearly 1,000 years and contains a huge amount of magic knowledge. Even Muggle-born students can bridge the magic gap with pure-blood students here. This is one of the reasons why Hermione can become a master of magic. In the world of D&D, even if Hermione is smart and easy to learn, there is no way to pay for the sky-high knowledge. Many powerful black magic in the library are stored in the Forbidden Book area, and only senior students or a professor's approval note can be borrowed, but this obviously does not include occlumency. It is undoubtedly very difficult to find such unpopular knowledge directly. Cedric directly approached Mrs. Pants, the librarian, and got the books he wanted in the strange eyes of the other party. Be careful. You are leaking secrets. How to seal your brain advanced. On the role of subconsciousness on occlusive cerebral art. There is no way to find these 3 books even at Lihen bookstore, because they are so unpopular and almost out of print. Occlumency is the use of magic in the initial stage, weaving a protective cover in your brain, so that it can form an effective resistance when the enemy uses intent of dementia on you. The advanced occlumency cerebral technique not only completes the weaving of the protective cover, but also weaves a layer of your created memory on the outside, allowing the enemy to receive false news. Even though Cedric has some accumulation in this area, these 3 books are still too difficult for him. Only 1/5 of the first book has been read throughout the afternoon and evening. It is even more important to truly master the tricks. It will take at least a few years. After borrowing one of them, Cedric rubbed his puffy eyes and returned to the bedroom. When Cedric came back, his roommates suddenly exclaimed, "Cedric, I heard you stayed in the library all afternoon." Cedric nodded indifferently. After all, staying in the library is not a shameful thing. There is a book in the library that I read a little fascinated. After seeing the book that Cedric was holding, Foran couldn't help but said, "I think something must be wrong with the Sorting Hat. You are a Ravenclaw by nature." "My mother thinks so too, but I think the Sorting Hat feels that I am more upright, that's why I came to Hufflepuff," Cedric said shamelessly. The next day, Cedric arrived outside the House of Request also early in the morning, but today, he was not looking for treasure again. "I need an alchemy room." After walking back and forth 3 times, Cedric opened the door and walked in. I have to say that this alchemy room is far more luxurious than he imagined. In addition to the standard alchemy stand and alchemy equipment, there is even a not small ritual altarpiece. Alchemy is a complicated science of magic, and Cedric, who has an LV1 level of alchemy, is not a complete novice. Is mainly divided into 2 sub-disciplines in alchemy, the first is enchanting, and the second is alchemy. The former usually uses incantations or magical materials, and engraves special spells on items to transform them into alchemy items. The latter uses rituals or refinements to change the nature of things, such as creating a fire that can burn but only 30 degrees Celsius. Read www.uuganshu.com. This belongs to the study of refinement. To cite another example, the basilisk is a product of alchemy. Through mysterious rituals, the nature of the egg is changed to give birth to a powerful and magical creature like the basilisk. Generally speaking, the difficulty of the latter is much higher than that of the former. The highest masterpiece of training is the Philosopher's Stone in this world. As a beginner, Cedric certainly does not expect to be able to complete the refining of the Sorcerer's Stone. For him, being able to master enchantment proficiently and refining a few magical equipment that can save his life is the first in the past 4 years. Important. If you want to train a qualified alchemist, in addition to massive knowledge and extraordinary talents, the most important thing is a large amount of gold coins. Every alchemist is piled up with equal weight of mithril. This is a motto in the alchemy world, so the alchemists in the British wizarding world have never broken through double digits. Want to support an alchemist? Relying on the strength of the Cedric family is far from enough, so Cedric's alchemy is only at the stage of getting started and mastering the basic knowledge. But with the treasure house in the House of Responsiveness, coupled with Mr. Diggory-Swole from the Department of Fantastic Beast Management, Cedric is confident that he can take a big step in enchanting. Took sniff out of his pocket. The little guy was still dozing in the morning. Cedric scratched his abdomen without sympathy. A large number of magic items collected yesterday kept falling out of his pocket. After a simple cleaning in the responsive house yesterday, Cedric has discarded the worthless items aside. There are a total of 7 magic items left, of which 6 are still in a damaged state, and only 1 is intact. After all, as long as it is not a magic item of Ravenclaw's level, it is difficult to withstand the erosion of the years. Cedric put on dragon leather gloves, took out his notebook, and carefully began to record 7 items. The first is the intact magic item. This is a delicate ring with a small opal inlaid on it. The outer ring is a beautiful pattern, and the inner ring says dedicated to my beloved in Latin. True manifestation. Cedric cast a spell on the ring. This is an uncommon spell. Few modern wizards except alchemists know that its power can make magic items show their own magical aura. The stronger the aura, the more advanced this magic item is. The magical aura of blood red and black at the same time means that this is a dangerous magic item, which is equivalent to detecting evil in this world. A layer of dim pink magic aura emerged, which relieved Cedric a lot. This is a magic item between entry level and boutique level. Cedric recorded it in his notebook. Then he picked up a special alchemy magnifying glass and began to observe this item. First of all, the material was the material. The silver ring was obviously a silver alloy mixed with mithril. Mithril is a magic material extracted from silver. It has excellent magic conductivity, just like copper on the scientific side, and has a wide range of uses. But its high price makes alchemists always be cautious when using this material. There is nothing special about the inner circle except Latin. The exquisite patterns on the outer circle are like leaves, which should also be used for decoration. With Cedric's thinking, the quill automatically writes on the notebook. The judgment just now is not without basis. The spells on enchanted alchemy items in the British magical world probably came from 2 aspects. One is the secret text of ancient Egypt, which is the precious knowledge passed to mankind by the Egyptian Hermes. The legendary alchemy book Jade Record was written in this language, but in modern times, the secret text has almost disappeared. I am afraid that only Nicomeller has some control in the entire British magical world. The Philosopher's Stone or the Sage's Stone is used. Kuiulu is made of knowledge. The second type is rune, which is the magic word in Norse mythology that the great Odin sacrificed an eye in exchange for, and it is also the most used magic pattern in modern alchemy. Obviously, this exquisite pattern is not. Then the enchantment should come from the opal on the ring. The mithril ring played a role in amplifying the magic effect, a very reasonable and practical alchemy technique, Cedric muttered in his heart. After finding the root cause, Cedric quickly found the rune inscribed in the opal. Charm. This is the power contained in the runes above. Although the runes are not lost, they are still in a half-lost state. The knowledge of runes circulating in the magic world is incomplete. This kind of magic text has lost the most important part of language, grammar. Runes in the magical world only have a single meaning, and there is no complete grammar. What's more interesting is that 2 runes with completely different meanings merge together to form a new rune. For example, the combination of water and fire means balance. And so far, people have not found the law of the merger of runes, that is, the grammar among them. There can only be one record for later learners. Using opal as a carrier to play the role of the charm rune, and then magnifying it with mithril, Cedric quickly sorted out the alchemy idea of this item. Of course, there is not a lot of alchemy knowledge contained therein, such as how to embed runes into gems. This is the knowledge that Cedric has not yet mastered. And now, in addition to realizing this item into Jin Jialong, it only has 2 purposes: dismantling opal and mithril as alchemy materials. The former should be more valuable, Cedric judged in his heart. After all, magic items that increase charm are still very popular among witches. After thinking about it, Cedric finally decided to try this charm ring. He took off the dragon leather glove and put it on his little finger for easy removal. There is no particular reaction, Cedric murmured. But he has a more intuitive way to view the ring. System. As he said silently in his heart. Potentially detached person 00067 Cedric degree power, 3 agility, 4 intelligence, 8 physical strength, 4 charm, 7, plus 2, lucky, 6, the standard for adult men is 5, basic attribute power, chaos magic talent, none skills, conjuration LV2, potions LV2, alchemy LV1, the status bar is temporarily sealed. After becoming a detached one, it will be automatically unblocked. The attribute bar was once again shown in front of him, and the words +2 appeared behind the charm. Although he can't identify items, he can intuitively feel the increase in his attributes. Cedric has explored a new purpose for the system. Determined the role of the ring, he turned his gaze to the remaining 6 damaged magic items again. Near noon, Cedric simply sorted the remaining 6 damaged magic items. After all, it was much more difficult to use them than the charm ring. 3 of the items have a long history and are severely damaged, and may even have been damaged in the hands of the Hogwarts predecessors. They are each a 12-inch cane, and the handle of the cane is directly shaved off by a sharp tool, causing damage. A magic book, but the strange thing is that it has no words. It used to be alive, but now it's dead. What interests Cedric the most is a guard doll. If it is intact, it should be able to become a golem, driven by a wizard to fight, just like the stone statues guarding Hogwarts. The other 3 pieces are rough in their own production. The long years of UU reading www.uuganshu.com have wiped out the magic patterns and magic power on them, and they can only be used as waste to refine some alchemical materials. This morning, he had a full harvest, so during the whole lunch, he had a happy mood that people could see at a glance. Fulun couldn't help asking curiously, "Did you encounter any good things?" Cedric smiled while spreading butter bread. "Of course, I learned some useful magic knowledge in the morning." Cedric's answer suddenly stopped the little wizards around him, and he didn't even know how to pick up this topic. Forun curled his lips and said, "You will have no friends like this." Cedric smiled and said, "Is the biggest benefit of playing with your friends a happy mood?" "Of course, Cedric, you should join us, or you will become a nerd." Hearing Cedric's opening, Forun on the side kindly persuaded him. "Hufflepuff's people are very nice, at least they didn't show Gryffindor's indifference to Hermione. Everyone, studying also makes me happy." Cedric continued, "The result is the same, but the path we choose is different. Maybe Hermione would still be entangled between strength and friends at that age, but Cedric, who has memories of past lives, knew clearly that for the human species, as long as you have strength, you will never lack friends. Spending time to improve is far more important than making friends. This is why Voldemort and Dumbledore are so different, but they have a large number of followers around them. The bottom line is that they are the 2 most powerful wizards in England." After leaving everyone looking at each other, Cedric went to the library again after lunch. On the first day of the official school day, Cedric walked in awe into the classroom of the transformation class. Here is the classroom of the transformation master Minerva McGonagall. As one of the evergreen trees of Hogwarts, Anima the inheritor of Gus, her attainments in transfiguration, even Dumbledore can't be much higher. A magical master like her, except at Hogwarts, it is difficult to get advice. Animagus, which even Dumbledore hadn't made, is certainly one of Cedric's most curious magic. At its root, Animagus is actually a kind of advanced alchemy. If you want to become Animagus, you must first contain a piece of mandala grass and use it as the main material to make a bottle of complex potion. Then cast a spell on himself during each storm and at sunrise and sunset, and finally completed the transformation under the lightning day. The intermediate process is extremely complicated and difficult. As long as one link goes wrong, all the efforts will be in vain. After reading, did you find that Animagus's transformation method is the same as that of making a basilisk? Only one target is a human being, and the other is a male egg. They are both advanced refinement techniques, and it can even be said that the theory is the same, but the ordinary Animagus can't transform into a magical animal, and it does not have extraordinary powers, which is a big disadvantage. But the advantages of Animagus are also huge. This is a refinement technique that changes the nature of things. In other words, as long as you don't know that this mouse was made by Animagus, it's even stronger than Dumbledore would not find out either. As soon as he entered the classroom, Cedric spotted the unique tabby cat on the table. This should be a feature of Professor McGonagall's class, revealing to apprentices the ultimate transformation of the world, but few people are aware of this. I returned to my seat and took a seat. After a while, the class bell rang. The tabby cat on the table turned into Professor McGonagall in a blink of an eye, which immediately caused the little wizard to exclaim. "Mr. Cedric, you have been observing on me for a long time as soon as you entered the door. How did you find out?" Cedric got up and said, "Dear Professor, I want Animagus to transform, this kind of magic that changes the nature of things. Even Dean Dumbledore can't find the clue, but I'm in Hogwarts. I have seen in school history that you are one of the few transformation masters in the world who can use Animagus. And this kind of ultimate transfiguration, every wizard who is dedicated to climbing on the magic road will be very curious." Cedric spoke out his own reasons with reason, which is undoubtedly outstanding at the age of 11 or 12. Professor McGonagall nodded approvingly. "Mr. Cedric, I have seen from you the character, knowledge, and curiosity of a good wizard." Hufflepuff adds 5 points. Hufflepuff's course was taken with Ravenclaw. Cedric undoubtedly robbed all Ravenclaw's limelight, and all the little wizards suddenly talked about it. "Njing!" Professor McGonagall said sternly. With a wave of her magic wand, the podium suddenly turned into a lion, roaring at the little wizards, and the whole classroom was immediately quiet. Transfiguration is an esoteric course. Just like Mr. Cedric said just now, we can change the nature of things through transfiguration and allow everything to transform freely. Said, she pointed at the blackboard brush again, and it suddenly turned into a flying eagle, hovering low in the classroom. It is not easy to learn transfiguration well, so I hope you will be serious enough in the next study. This kind of magic to transform matter is really amazing. Cedric sighed as he looked at the vivid falcons and lions. He even has a vague hunch, if he can achieve great achievements in transformation art, then he may also get a leap in refinement art. After all, the two can be compared by analogy. Okay, now I see the matches on your table. Today we are going to learn how to turn it into a silver needle. With a wave of her magic wand, the eagle and lion suddenly changed back to the podium and blackboard brush. Half an hour later, Professor McGonagall raised his voice again and said, "Mr. Cedric successfully turned the match into a silver needle, and Hufflepuff adds 5 points." Professor McGonagall raised the silver needle in her hand, and there was some excitement in her eyes. After all, few little wizards can successfully transform in the first transforming class, even pure-blooded, preschool-educated little wizards. They are the same. Transfiguration is a discipline that requires talent, and Cedric has shown this outstanding talent. The original Cedric was very talented in transfiguration, but after crossing, now he not only inherited this talent perfectly, but also carried it forward. After class, Cedric did not swarm out of the classroom like other little wizards, but took a notebook and asked Professor McGonagall privately. After answering several of Cedric's transfiguration questions, Professor McGonagall also realized that this particular student's achievements in transfiguration had surpassed that of a little wizard in the first or second grade, and began to involve an intermediate transformation technique that transforms a dead thing into a living thing. "Mr. Cedric, although your studious makes me feel gratified, but I have to remind you that the transformation of a dead thing into a living thing is already dangerous, just like this." Said, she pointed to the podium twisted, but unexpectedly failed in the process of transforming into a male lion, causing her front half to become a male lion, while the back half was still the podium. And this lion summoned by the failed transfiguration technique was not as tame as before. Instead, it revealed madness and wanted to attack two people, but because the back half was still a platform, it was difficult to touch. Cedric saw this scene, and he immediately understood what Professor McGonagall meant. If he fails to practice intermediate transfiguration, the transformation product is very likely to be out of the control of the wizard, or even attack the wizard himself. After turning the failed lion into a podium again, Professor McGonagall continued, so in principle, I do not approve of you practicing intermediate metamorphosis alone." Cedric heard Professor McGonagall's voiceover, and he quickly said, "Do you have time to teach me more advanced transfiguration?" "Of course," Professor McGonagall said with a rare smile, "I founded a transfiguration club. I will teach some tricks on transfiguration every Saturday afternoon. You can come if you are interested." Hogwarts Student Club is also a major feature. Except for a few that are just for fun, many are created for practicing magic. In the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter even founded his own fighting club. "This is my honor, Professor." After a month of study, Cedric became familiar with Hogwarts. Those spiral stairs no longer hindered him, and his reputation as Ravenclaw in Hufflepuff was also in the lower grades. Gradually spread. After getting acquainted with the academy, Cedric is ready to start his next study plan. The restricted area is the fastest place to increase his strength. How awesome is Hogwarts' Forbidden Area? It is the accumulation of 4 legendary wizards and an academy over the past 1,000 years. It can be said that the entire British magical world cannot find more black magic than here. Even Voldemort may be a method of obtaining Horcrux from the Forbidden Book Zone. For the production of Horcruxes, Cedric is of course interested. Although this technology has major flaws, the ability to avoid death is enough to offset all the shortcomings. As long as you can make a Horcrux, your chance of surpassing your fate can be increased by at least 50%. After all, suspended animation is an unsatisfactory tactic. Moreover, Voldemort was able to make a successful Horcrux in his school days. Cedric believes that he will not be much worse than Voldemort in his student days provided that he can find a way to make a Horcrux. If you want to successfully wander in the Forbidden Area, it is definitely not enough to rely on the Phantom spell. Cedric doesn't want to be accidentally run into by Dumbledore, as Voldemort's second. After all, he is so similar to Voldemort now, even with the mind of the White Wizard, there is no way to tolerate the appearance of the second Voldemort. If you want to avoid Dumbledore successfully, you only need one magic item, and that is the famous live spot map. To some extent, the spot map is more useful than the invisibility cloak in Hogwarts. And this magic item is in the hands of the dumb gunner, Filch. It is too easy to get it. Filch's greatest pleasure is to catch students who violate the school rules, which means that he is often not in his office. It is mentioned in the original work that the live spot map was found by the twin Weasley in his office. It is a blank parchment scroll. After figuring out Filch's routine, Cedric took advantage of the opponent's departure from the office, and quickly sneaked into his office with the illusion charm and the door-opening charm. After searching, he quickly found this legendary item. Back in the bedroom, Cedric did not open it directly, but first studied the item. As an alchemy item, the craftsmanship of the live map is very high in Cedric's mind, even no less than a Horcrux. First of all, this was an activated alchemy item, and Snape was laughed at in the original book. Activated items are not uncommon in Harry Potter, but another feature of the live point map is incredible. This map is connected to the entire Hogwarts, which is why the live spot map can accurately report the location of everyone in Hogwarts. This feature is even a little frightening. If it weren't for the Porter 4 to get some special inheritance, then it means that they have found a loophole or flaw in the 4 legendary wizards. For a wizarding castle like Hogwarts, the existence of a live map can't be described as flaws at all. If the enemies of Hogwarts get this map, they can even follow the flaws and continue to erode the entire Hogwarts defense system. And Cedric is more inclined to the latter, and then contacting the invisibility cloak, one of the 3 Deathly Hallows, Harry Potter's father must have some powerful inheritance. To know that even at the cost of life, an ancient spell can kill the Dark Lord in its heyday, which is an extremely terrifying thing. It would be nice if he could get this inheritance. Cedric couldn't help being a little fanciful. Want to fart? Cedric patted his cheek. There may be no way to find the inheritance of the Potters, otherwise they would not leave Harry a clue. I solemnly declare that I have bad intentions. Cedric said to the map of the point of life. The blank parchment suddenly showed pen and ink, and a simple activity map was outlined, on which the names of the moving people were constantly marked. After studying for a while, Cedric had to admit that the technology in the life point map was not something that his current level of alchemy could understand. Then he started planning to visit the restricted book area at night. For the books in the Forbidden Book Zone, Cedric has a very clear goal, that is, those ancient alchemy techniques. In the Middle Ages, there were a lot of cruel and extreme alchemy techniques, such as Horcruxes that need to be produced by killing talents. These methods are extremely immoral in modern times, so they were sealed in the restricted book zone of Hogwarts. As for the so-called powerful black spells, Cedric can only describe it with "Hey." The essence of Harry Potter's world power is chaos magic, although the spell can add attributes to achieve various strange effects. But this is just enchanting instead of refining. Yes, no wizard in Harry Potter can change the nature of chaos magic. They are only using the chaos magic power. When the chaos magic power hits the object, they complete the enchantment and produce different effects. In the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter confronted Voldemort for the first time, and many people didn't realize that something was wrong with the spell he used. Harry Potter used Weapon Except You, while Voldemort's used Avada Soul. The three unforgivable spells used by the Dark Lord were resisted by the simplest primary attack spell of Weapon Except You. But if you return to the essence of chaotic magic, there will be no problem. When two opposing spells collide, it is not the spell that determines the strength, but the strength of the user's own magic. Harry Potter, as one of the Horcruxes, and Voldemort's remnant soul can be said to be evenly matched in terms of magic power, but Harry has never realized this. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. So for those so-called powerful black magic, Cedric is not going to spend a lot of time practicing. Is an unskilled battle against waves. Just remember to stand on the right side of the auditorium. In the middle of the night, with the help of the phantom spell and the map of the point of living, Cedric easily reached the forbidden book area. Without the guidance of Mrs. Pins, it is not easy to find the books you need in the restricted book zone. But Cedric had predicted that he was going to browse the entire banned book area first, and then slowly spend time borrowing books one by one. Cruel Ritual is good. Crazy Alchemist, this one is also very interesting. When get out of class was over to pack up the books, Foreign, Cedric's only friend in Hufflepuff who could speak a few words, looked at him worriedly. Cedric, are you sick? Why do you say that? Cedric said while yawning. You didn't ask Professor Snape any extra questions in class today. Fu Ethics replied naturally. Cedric shook his mind. Okay, this flaw is relatively big. After all, even if the wizards have high mana, they are still mortal, especially the little wizard's body is easy to get sleepy. Don't worry, I'm just a little stressed about studying recently, I will find a way to solve it. As the first person to lead the grade, Cedric's learning pressure is a little bit heavy, and Foran suddenly messed up in the wind. After the problem was pointed out by Foran, Cedric wanted to solve it, and the solution was very simple, only a bottle of energy potion was enough. This primary potion is not difficult for Cedric of Potions LV2. Facts have proved that in a sense, the savior is also one of the sources of disaster. Cedric said in his heart on the steam train leaving Hogwarts. Hogwarts without a savior is undoubtedly safe and happy. Cedric did not encounter any strange things during the half-semester. On the 9th and 3rd quarter of the platform, the Diggories have been waiting for their precious son, whom they haven't seen for half a year. Mrs. Diggory looked at Cedric and said, "Well, you have grown a lot taller. Have you made new friends at the academy?" Mr. Diggory asked while saluting. For the precocious Cedric, the Diggories are both assured and worried. In normal life, Cedric has never caused all kinds of problems like other bear kids. But with an adult mind, he rarely mixes with other children, and is always addicted to all kinds of magic books, which makes the Diggory and his wife very worried. Of course, Hogwarts is interesting. I not only met Jessie, but also became good friends with Ferenn and Yvonne. Cedric kept telling the funny Hogwarts he made up. In his depiction, Hogwarts is full of friends' laughter, not libraries, alchemy, and potions. While the Diggorys were happy, Cedric looked at Mr. Diggory hopefully. Dad, can I train at the Fantastic Beast Management Department this winter vacation? I can be your assistant. In England, during the winter and summer vacations, the little wizards will also find some part-time or internship jobs. For example, the famous Voldemort used to practice in a magic shop in Nocturne Alley. Hearing what Cedric said, Mr. Diggory was both proud and a little worried. After all, as a father, his son can be proud of his work. Moreover, the wizarding world has changed very little. It is a small utopian society, so a large number of wizards are inherited from their fathers when they reach adulthood. Cedric, although you like Fantastic Beasts very much, the work of the division is too early for you. The Department of Magical Animal Management is the second largest department of the Ministry of Magic. It is a department with great authority. In addition to sheltering dangerous magical animals that may threaten Muggle society in the wild, it also combats illegal reselling of magical animals, protects endangered magical animals, and even contacts wisdom. Fantastic animals belong to the scope of authority. For example, the Fairy Liaison Department and the Giant Liaison Department belong to the subordinate departments of this department. In addition to dozens of regular employees, the Department of Fantastic Beast Management also has a large number of temporary employees. Many senior Hogwarts students will come to the division for internships. Hogwarts is the only higher magic school in England. But an employee as small as Cedric has never had one. Although the Ministry of Magic has not issued a law prohibiting the employment of child labor, Cedric is too young. Father, I promise you that I will listen to you with peace of mind, otherwise I will have to spend the whole winter vacation in the study. Cedric threatened. Regarding Cedric's threat, Mr. Diggory reluctantly surrendered. Well, but if you are too naughty and driven out by someone else, I won't intercede. The Diggory couple, who hoped that Cedric could grow up happily, certainly did not want their son who already had this trend to become a nerd. Yet, Cedric happily high-fived with Mr. Diggory, at the same time knowing that his potion raw materials are already half of his hands. Early the next morning, the well-dressed Cedric and Mr. Diggory came to the Ministry of Magic located in the underground of London through Fleur fans. I have to say that despite all the inconveniences of Fleur fans, it is almost perfect as an attendance tool for work. As soon as they came to the ministry, many people greeted Mr. Diggory. Hi, Amos, good morning, if I remember correctly, this is your son. As a colleague of Mr. Diggory, many people have met Cedric. Hello, Mr. Ball. Cedric adjusted the tie of his suit, and said solemnly, Mr. Amos Diggory hired me as his temporary assistant for an internship in the Department of Fantastic Beast Management. Cedric's serious expression matched his age, and everyone couldn't help laughing. This kind of naughty that belongs to children, adults always have a high tolerance. As you can see, Bull, Cedric asked me to take him to the ministry all day yesterday. Mr. Diggory said with a wry smile. It's an internship, Cedric corrected. Ball couldn't help but interject, okay, it's an internship, Mr. Cedric, what kind of work can you do? Cedric pretended to think for a while and said, maybe I can help take care of those magical animals, such as dragons. Cedric directly exposed his purpose, causing the office to burst into cheerful laughter again. The little wizard, especially the little boy, is always full of curiosity about the legendary animal like the dragon. After all, the dragon is a symbol of wealth and power. You thought I was on the first floor, but in fact I was on the third floor. Of course, Cedric, who is a pie, doesn't mind exposing his purpose directly. After laughing, Bull said, Mr. Cedric, no one will keep a dragon like a magical animal in the Ministry of Magic. Cedric couldn't help but feel a little lost. You reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Are there no dragons? Although there is no dragon, there are still other magical animals in our company that need to be taken care of. If you really read the Book of Monsters, maybe you can try it. Can't bear to hit Cedric's Bull's voice. Change. Perique, take our little Mr. Cedric to the temporary shelter. Perique was a young man in his 20s. He shrugged helplessly when he heard Bull's words, and led Cedric to the asylum of the Department of Fantastic Beast Management through Fleur fans. This is a castle similar to a zoo, with huge floor-to-ceiling glass separating rooms, with various environments. It's really big here. Cedric sighed with joy, which means that he may have gained a lot. Of course. Perique explained, during the smuggling of magical animals across the UK, all the magical animals captured are temporarily kept here until a magical animal protection organization is willing to take them in. Animal smuggling? Cedric asked without understanding. Yes, magical animal smuggling is the largest illegal smuggling activity in the wizarding world. In the magical world of England alone, there are 100,000 gold gallons of smuggled animals every year. Some of them will be smuggled out, and some will be smuggled in. We also take over some magical animals that have survived illegal hunting, and contain some extremely dangerous magical animals in the wild. Before, Cedric had learned about the situation through Mr. Diggory. The biggest smuggled goods in the wizarding world are magical animals, which is equivalent to the sum of customs smuggling in the Muggle world. This is an extremely huge number. And most of the magical animals in smuggling are precious and rare, which also means that they are of great value in magic. Perique introduced here while taking Cedric to visit. Stopped when he reached a glass house with trees and grass growing. Although there are no dragons here, some magical animals are not weaker than dragons, just like it. As he said, Perique led Cedric into the glass room. He blew a whistle, and a white horse flew out from the shadow of the trees. It had sky blue eyes and silvery white. Of the unicorn. Unicorn, a magical animal at the XXXX level. In the taxonomy of magical animals are usually divided into 5 categories from X to XXXXX, but it does not mean that certain XXXX magical animals are weaker than XXXXX magical animals. The principle of classification is the danger of magical animals to humans. Although unicorns are only 4X magical animals, their powerful magic is unwilling to provoke even giant dragons. The same magical animals include phoenix and feather snake. These 3 magical creatures are all gentle species. The unicorn lowered its head and let Perique touch it. Perique smiled and introduced the unicorn. This is Cedric, it's... Before Perique finished speaking, Cedric interjected, it's a new intern. I'm glad to meet you. He believes that the wisdom of unicorns can understand the meaning of the two, so he first decides his identity. Seeing Cedric's right hand stretched out, the unicorn thought for a while, stretched out his tongue and licked it, agreeing with Cedric's identity. Perique, this Mr. Unicorn seems to like you very much. Cedric expressed his doubts. Unicorns are close to children and pure girls. This is their habit, but there is no such thing as a wizard. From the spiral pattern of this unicorn, it can be seen that it is a male unicorn. Of course. Perique said proudly, Morpheus was almost dying when he was sent here, and the cruel dark wizards have been drawing its blood for sale. But now, after my recuperation, Morpheus has recovered physically. I am preparing to send it to the dense forest of Hogwarts next year. I believe it will live better there. Cedric can tell from Perique's expression that this person really loves magical animals, but his idea is not good at all. Hogwarts jungle, unicorn. Just as Cedric wanted to persuade, the system's prompt sound came again, deflection of destiny, preventing unicorns from going to the Hogwarts jungle will cause unpredictable consequences and have a huge impact on the world. Will potential detachers continue this operation? Is that the unicorn really? Cedric was convinced in his heart. He thought for a while and swallowed his words. Even if he wants to save this unicorn, he is not in a hurry. Anyway, he will face the Dark Lord. Knowing that the plot is his biggest support, he must not mess with himself. Perique, I heard that people who hurt unicorns will be cursed. Hearing Cedric's words, Perique nodded. This is the protection of the unicorn. According to legend, the unicorn is the mount of the moon goddess Artemis. This powerful gave the special protection of the unicorn. Anyone who harms the unicorn will suffer irresistible bad luck. Of course, the legend of this is too far away from us, but it is true that harming unicorns will suffer bad luck, especially in the forest. The whole forest will be hostile to you, because Artemis is also a forest goddess. The hard to resist bad luck, if converted into the attribute panel, it should be lucky 5. At the same time, there is a negative state of forest hostility, Cedric thought in his heart. Few people come to this magical animal shelter. After all, not all wizards like magical animals, and caring for magical animals is an extremely hard job, and only those who truly love it are willing to pay for it. In addition to unicorns, Cedric also saw magical animals with powerful magical powers such as water monsters, invisible beasts, sphinxes, and so on. Even saw a legendary thunderbird, but it was too arrogant. Even facing the breeder Perique, it was indifferent. The visit throughout the morning made Cedric a different eye for Mr. Perique. He could communicate with so many magical animals and even become friends. This is more than just learning. This also means talent, an unparalleled talent. Throughout Harry Potter, Cedric only knows that the two have this kind of talent. The first is Newt in Where Are the Fantastic Beasts, and the second is the Forbidden Forest guard Hagrid. And these two are the people Dumbledore wants to recruit, powerful wizards who can command an army of magical animals. I haven't watched Where Are Fantastic Beasts before. Cedric thought that Hagrid was just to promote the plot. But after watching Where Are Fantastic Beasts, Cedric understood that Hagrid and the Hogwarts Forbidden Forest were a trump card that Dumbledore placed under the enemy's eyelids. A trump card enough to deal with Voldemort peak. This is the confidence of the greatest white wizard of the 20th century. Even if Voldemort turned the wizarding world upside down, he just wandered in Dumbledore's palm. After all, reality is more than just a fairy tale. Dumbledore has to some extent accomplished a feat that 2 generations of the Dark Lord have not accomplished. After the death of the Dark Lord, the new generation of Minister of Magic was appointed by the Order of the Phoenix. UU reading www.uuganshu.com's new batch of core British wizards are all from the Order of the Phoenix. Even with the help of Voldemort's hand, the Ministry of Magic, which had been restricting Dumbledore, the most powerful white wizard, was cleaned out once. From the final result of Hermione taking over as the Minister of Magic, it can be seen that the white wizard is not something Voldemort can resist, regardless of his strength or scheming. Facts speak louder than words, and Dumbledore also had such ambitions when he was young, but when he was old, his methods were more harsh and tactful. Thinking about it with extreme fear, Cedric sighed in his heart, and even sympathized with Voldemort. Perique, can you teach me how to be friendly with these magical animals? Cedric looked at each other longingly. Perique was taken aback. He did not expect that Cedric would want to do this boring job. You must know that he and a few house elves have been watching here. Adult wizards rarely want to stay with these magical animals. After all, animal breeders are extremely hard work. During the previous visit, Perique had discovered that the little wizard's knowledge about magical animals was almost erudite, and he was cautious enough to not make any excessive behaviors that angered the animals. If he were an adult wizard, he might really help share a lot of work, Perique thought in his heart. You need to ask your father. After all, taking care of them is not an easy task. Perique still has a good understanding of the 3-minute popularity of the little wizards, so he said perfunctorily. Wish we get along well in the time to come. Cedric stretched out his right hand to Perique. Finally there is another place to squeeze the wool, and Cedric felt that the title of Master Alchemist was beckoning to him. I have no past, I will become the past, no one has seen me, and no one can see me, but I am the mystery of people's survival and breathing. Tomorrow, Sphinx. Cedric replied, "You should take a look at the brain teasers I bought for you. Your riddles are already out of date." "Okay, but those Oriental characters are a bit too difficult, even if I need to spend a lot of time to master." Sitting in front of Cedric was a huge sphinx. This magical animal is always interested in guessing. Sphinx said that it was smuggled from Egypt by a pure-blooded wizard to act as a family guard, but the Fantastic Beast Management Department intercepted the smuggling. This winter vacation, Cedric quickly became good friends with him. This magical animal who is willing to guess puzzles has distinct weaknesses. If you give a riddle that it cannot guess, you can ask it to do something for you. And the Chinese brain teasers are undoubtedly the magic weapon for Cedric to win. Even the magical animals born for riddles want to master a new language again, not to mention the strange brain twists. The population of muggles is tens of thousands of times that of wizards. "Sphinx, I'm going to school," Cedric said to the Sphinx who was flipping through the books. Sphinx was taken aback. After all, Cedric brought a lot of fun to it, and even Peric couldn't match it. "You will come back?" Sphinx said with expectation. "Of course, I will come back to see you during the summer vacation. This is an excellent place to gather wool." How could Cedric give up? After hearing the answer he wanted, Sphinx breathed a sigh of relief and said proudly, "When you come back, I will win back all the feathers I lost." Sphinx raised the brain teaser in Yang's hand. Every time the Sphinx loses, Cedric's request is one of its feathers. Sphinx's feathers are widely used in alchemy and are a symbol of mystery, possessing secret, wisdom, knowledge, etc. Multiple uses. "Go and say hello to others, don't hinder me from reading." After speaking, the Sphinx took the initiative to spit out an orb, this bet. As the guardian beast of ancient Egyptian treasures, the Sphinx has its own collection, which even the wizard who caught it does not know. Cedric accidentally took the orb spit out by the Sphinx, which was a surprise. Today Cedric didn't want to gain anything. After all, he has collected enough Sphinx feathers this summer, enough for him to make several powerful magic items. And the Sphinx's wings are about to be bald by him, Peric has complained several times. "This is wisdom beads, the wearer can slowly increase wisdom," Sphinx replied. "Good thing," Cedric immediately equipped himself, and at the same time clicked on his attribute panel, +3, appeared behind the intelligence, and there was an upward arrow at the same time. Although this is not the most powerful magic item Cedric has ever seen, it is definitely the most useful. Saying goodbye to the Sphinx, Cedric bid farewell to a few magical animals that could communicate, more or less for Peric's sake. He received some gifts in return. Finally, he looked at Thunderbird's house reluctantly. The most powerful magical animal Cedric has ever seen is still the same as before. Even Peric is just a breeder, not a friend. So failing to get wool from this powerful magical animal has become one of Cedric's regrets. Fortunately, Japan will be long. Back home, on the simple alchemy table, piled pieces of white feathers, on which are written with magic potions one after another with ancient riddles. The last step is left. Cedric carefully picked up the Sphinx feathers that had been processed, and woven them into a bracelet with the refined mithril wire. Has completed the last step, this magical item is finally made successfully. Sphinx's mysterious bracelet is the first alchemy wonder made by Cedric himself, and according to the standard, it should be regarded as a fine-quality magic item. Refining materials include Sphinx feathers won by answering puzzles, 22 ancient alchemy riddles, and pure mithril silk, the wool gathered from the Sphinx. In addition to its magical feathers, these ancient alchemy riddles also have great value. These metaphors are the riddles of the world's first alchemy, and they are full of secret powers. Cedric looked at this feather bracelet with satisfaction, like other alchemists, branding his own magic mark in a paragraph of words. Your secret is being protected. Although this bracelet cannot add specific attributes, it can interfere with prophetic magic and detection magic. And dementia is exactly this type of magic. Yes, Cedric really couldn't improve his occlumency in a short time without being taught, but with this SPHYNX's mysterious bracelet plus LV2's occlumency, he confident to be able to resist the charm of the Horcrux Ravenclaw crown. Grandpa Voldemort, here I am. As soon as he returned to Hogwarts, Cedric couldn't wait to go to the House of Request. After all, he had too many puzzles about magic that needed a master of magic to answer. Reading www.uukonshu.com. But for these issues involving black magic, Cedric will not ask the professors at Hogwarts dead, and he will continue to ensure that his stalwart personality can become the same as Voldemort because of a little black magic. What about the Mist Boy? Before, Cedric had used modern psychology to profile Voldemort once. This Muggle technique is not inferior to the dementia to some extent, and it can even understand yourself better than you. The first is the production of Horcruxes. After dividing the soul, the Horcrux will not damage the wisdom, but will magnify the shortcomings of its character, which is equivalent to a decrease in the SAN value. The divided Horcrux will not improve itself as the person changes, and the soul inside will always remain in the state when it was divided. And when did Voldemort divide Ravenclaw's crown? Was on the eve of his graduation, and at the same time a major event happened, which marked the break between him and Dumbledore. Dumbledore refused when Voldemort became a teacher of defense against the dark arts, and Voldemort, who was a good teacher, even cast an unsolvable curse angrily. So at this time, the biggest weakness of Voldemort's Horcrux in Ravenclaw's crown was his desire to be a teacher, not to dominate the world or something. In the Eastern term, it is obsession or heart demon. And as long as I can act as a pure-blood mage who is obsessed with exploring dark magic and tirelessly pursuing power, I believe it can satisfy Ravenclaw's obsession with the Horcrux. This is just the real appearance. The wool must be stroked along. Well, Voldemort is an excellent teacher of black magic, Cedric said in his heart.